glance at that pile without feeling in it a long accumulation of history. What kind of history I was not prepared to guess. Perhaps only that sheer weight of many associated lives and deaths, which gives a majesty to all old houses. But the aspect of Kerfol suggested something more, a perspective of stern and cruel memories stretching away like its own grey avenues into a blur of darkness. Certainly no house had ever been more completely and finally broken with the present. As it stood there, lifting its proud roofs and gables to the sky, it might have been its own funeral monument. Tombs in the chapel. The whole place is a tomb, I reflected. I hoped more and more that the guardian would not come. The details of the place, however striking, would seem trivial compared with its collective impressiveness, and I wanted only to sit there and be penetrated by the weight of its silence. "It's the very place for you," Lanrivan had said, and I was overcome by the almost blasphemous frivolity of suggesting to any living being that Kerfol was the place for him. Is it possible that anyone could not see? I wondered. I did not finish the thought. What I meant was undefinable. I stood up and wandered towards the gate. I was beginning to want to know more, not to see more. I was, by now, so sure it was not a question of seeing, but to feel more, feel all the place had to communicate. But to get in, one will have to rout out the keeper, I thought reluctantly, and hesitated. Finally, I crossed the bridge and tried the iron gate. It yielded, and I walked through the tunnel formed by the thickness of the chemin de ronde. At the farther end, a wooden barricade had been laid across the entrance, and beyond it was a court enclosed in noble architecture. The main building faced me, and I now saw that one half was a mere ruined front, with gaping windows, through which the wild growths of the moat and the trees of the park were visible. The rest of the house was still in its robust beauty. One end abutted on the round tower, the other on a small traceried chapel, and in an angle of the building stood a graceful wellhead, crowned with mossy urns. A few roses grew against the wall, and on an upper window-sill I remember noticing a pot of fuchsias. My sense of the pressure of the invisible began to yield to my architectural interest. The building was so fine that I felt a desire to explore it for its own sake. I looked about the court, wondering in which corner the guardian lodged. Then I pushed open the barrier and went in. As I did so, a dog barred my way. He was such a remarkably beautiful little dog that for a moment he made me forget the splendid place he was defending. I was not sure of his breed at the time, but have since learned that it was Chinese, and that he was of a rare variety called the sleeve dog. He was very small and golden brown, with large brown eyes and a ruffled throat. He looked like a large tawny chrysanthemum. I said to myself, these little beasts always snap and scream, and someone will be out in a minute. The little animal stood before me, forbidding, almost menacing. There was anger in his large brown eyes, but he made no sound. He came no nearer. Instead, as I advanced, he gradually fell back, and I noticed that another dog, a vague, rough, brindled thing, had limped up on a lame leg. There'll be a hubbub now, I thought, for at the same moment a third dog, a long-haired white mongrel, slipped out of a doorway and joined the others. All three stood looking at me with grave eyes, but not a sound came from them. As I advanced, they continued to fall back on muffled paws, still watching me. At a given point, they'll all charge my ankles. It's one of the jokes that dogs who live together put up on one, I thought. I was not alarmed, for they were neither large nor formidable, but they let me wander about the court as I pleased, following me at a little distance, always the same distance, and always keeping their eyes on me. Presently I looked across at the ruined facade, and saw that in one of its empty window frames another dog stood, a white pointer with one brown ear. He was an old, grave dog, much more experienced than the others, and he seemed to be observing me with a deeper intentness. "I'll hear from him," I said to myself, but he stood in the window.